The budgeting thing is a separate story, but explaining the problem and at least having recognition that this is something that has to get fixed has not been a problem for me personally. And then, it's just a matter of making sure that you are aligned with what the immediate goals of the company are. And if you can fit it into an initiative that's already there, maybe there's already an AI initiative. I don't personally believe that you just slap AI on and people are going to say, "Ooh, let's do it." But that it does have some sex appeal. But if you can somehow say, this thing that has to happen, if you do this other thing that you already know is really important is actually going to move a little more quickly. And you can show and prove that, let's say it's an automation, or let's say it's a re-architecture of maybe some data modeling or something like that, right? If you can show that by taking those sort of boring steps that nobody really pays attention to other than you, that those things are actually going to make front end benefits, that's the key, right? But you have to really make sure that, again, that you have a holistic understanding of how everything works together, because if you don't know those things, then you're hoping that by socializing it, that they'll connect those dots for you. And there's no guarantee that that's going to happen.
I think that's very wise. What would be your recommendation or almost your rule of thumb for leaders on the concept of customizing everything versus leveraging out of the box? When, if you're just looking at it from a Salesforce point of view, what would be your recommendation, and what are some lessons that you've learned through this?
Yeah. Again, I'm going to be a little bit cynical here, right? Which is the Salesforce implementations that I've been a part of have often had, fairly hefty price tags with fairly, I'd say, bloated project teams and structures, right? And part of what happens in these situations, at least again, in my experience, to be fair, is the implementation partner is designing with the intent of having a long-term stake in the solution. And so they will, again, I'm not trying to be unfair. My perception is that complexity gets built in to guarantee it to be a sticky solution for them, right? Well, they're the only ones that need them, so we'll have to do, a managed service agreement with them. And so I am very much of the belief that these systems are designed with intention. They're designed to be universally applicable. And the degree to which you can use the functionality like out of the box of the system, use as much out of the box as you can, right? And if your business is really that difficult that you can't adopt some of these best because the systems are built oftentimes with a best practice approach in mind. If you can't leverage those best practice approaches, then ask yourself why, right? Is this going to really make us, does this differentiate us, this particular thing that we're so caught up on? Or is it just that we're so used to doing it this way that we just, again, want to have a facsimile of the old system, built into the new system? So customization ultimately has to happen, but it should be to get you from 85% to 100%. It shouldn't be, to get you from 40% to 100%.
Thank you. Do you mind if I share with you a war story of something I had to live through? And it's
No, I'd love to hear it.
Scolding it. So back when I worked with IBM, they were looking to implement Salesforce. And there's a lot of really smart people in IBM, but sometimes the engineering mindset thinks that they're a little bit too smart. And so they wanted to take Salesforce as a sales tool and reverse engineer it to be a CPQ first platform. And Salesforce came in and said, it's not designed to do this. Like, please just leverage out of the box and change your business process to map to the best practices and make some changes and iterations, but focus on what it does best. I mean, it was designed to be a core CRM. It was designed for sales. And of course, back and forth, and the entire project ended up blowing up and cost a lot of money. And, I was brought in to do almost the retrospective and almost figure out, well, what happened. And one of the big decisions that was made by one of the SVPs when they launched Service Cloud is, we're not going to change anything. We're going to leverage out of the box. And you need to come to me to prove that your idea warrants a customization, or that it is so fundamentally needed that we need to go and actually customize it. So I'm not saying no, but you need to come up with a very good reason for it. And it reminds me of the Zappos way of doing things, which is Zappos says we're a customer service business and we're the best at customer service. So we're going to customize customer service because that's what we've identified ourselves as. But everything else, the other 90% of the business is all out of the box because we're not the best.